It's September 7th here in Seoul, 4th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dan. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with the Russia-Ukraine war. 2 Russian ballistic missiles hit a military academy and a neighboring hospital in eastern Ukraine, leaving at least 50 dead and more than 200 injured. Hamas has posted yet another video of one of the 6 hostages whose bodies were recently recovered by Israel. And for the first time, the U.S. Justice Department charged Hamas leaders in connection with the October 7 attack. South Korean shooter Park Jin-ho is bringing home his 2nd gold medal at the 2024 Paris Paralympics, finishing first in the men's 50-meter rifle 3 positions. We begin in Ukraine. Russian forces on Tuesday conducted a massive airstrike on a military training facility, killing at least 51 people and injuring more than 200 others. Lee Seung-jae has more.
In one of the deadliest single attacks since the start of the Ukraine war nearly 2.5 years ago, Russian airstrikes on a Ukrainian military educational facility on Tuesday killed at least 51 people and injured 219 others. According to Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, 2 ballistic missiles struck the facility located in the city of Poltava, as well as a nearby hospital. The head of the city's military administration said that at least 10 residential buildings were damaged at the military educational facility. The Associated Press said that the facility had been training communications and electronics officers, as well as drone pilots. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry said the missiles struck as people were evacuating after air raid sirens started blaring and called the attack barbaric. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin concluded his state visit to Mongolia, an International Criminal Court member nation. The visit by the Russian leader, who had an arrest warrant issued by the ICC for his war crimes in Ukraine, is raising the issue of the court's limitations. The visit took place despite Mongolia being obligated to arrest Putin upon his arrival. Pundits say that Mongolia was highly unlikely to execute the arrest warrant on Putin, given the fact that the country has a high dependence on Russian oil. 95% of its oil imports come from Russia. Over in Kyiv, 4 cabinet members have resigned from their posts ahead of a reshuffle. 4 ministers resigned on Tuesday, including Deputy Prime Minister for European Affairs Olga Stefanishina and Minister of Strategic Industries Alexander Kamayshin, who had a significant role in boosting arms production for Ukraine. Other resignations include the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Environment. President Zelensky said last week that a cabinet reshuffle was taking place soon, while the head of his party in the parliament said Tuesday that half of the current ministers were likely to be replaced. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Hamas has posted another video showing one of the 6 Israeli hostages found dead in Gaza. The U.S. Justice Department charged 5 senior Hamas leaders over the October 7th attack in Israel. That's the first criminal step to hold them accountable for the devastating attack. Peunji reports.
Hamas released a video of one of the 6 slain captives whose bodies were recovered by the Israeli military from Gaza over the weekend. In a 2-minute-long edited video released on the Telegram channel of Hamas military wing, 25-year-old Ori Danino asked the Israeli people to not neglect those being held by Hamas. This comes a day after the militant group on Monday night first released a video of one of the murdered hostages, 24-year-old aide, who had been working as a bartender at the Nova Music Festival on October 7th, on the day she was kidnapped by Hamas. The bodies of 6 slain captives were recovered from a tunnel in Gaza by Israeli military on Saturday local time. The Israeli government conducted a forensic examination and said the hostages appeared to have been shot at close range sometime between Thursday and Friday morning. In response to the video showing Israeli hostages, the White House press secretary said Hamas will pay for their crimes and that U.S. President Joe Biden will work around the clock with his team to get a ceasefire deal done.
Make no mistake about it, Hamas leaders are going to pay for these crimes. And he and his team, for sure, will keep working around the clock to get this hostage deal done. And this is a president that has been pretty clear about that.
The U.S. Department of Justice also charged several senior Hamas leaders over the terrorist attack on October 7th, making it the first step by the Justice Department to hold people accountable for the attack in Israel. The 5 defendants, including Yahya Sinwar, the terrorist organization's leader in Gaza, are facing 7 charges, such as terrorism charges, conspiracy to murder U.S. nationals, and conspiracy to use weapons of mass destruction resulting in death. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of Israeli protesters poured into the streets in Tel Aviv for a third night on Sunday, in grief and anger. They demanded Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reach a ceasefire agreement with Hamas to bring the remaining hostages home and end the nearly 11 months of war. 배은지, Arirang News.
So there are growing voices of concern both at home and abroad that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is not doing enough to secure a Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal, while Hamas continues to make threats. For more, we are joined by Dr. Baek Seung-won this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So Hamas is releasing videos of the hostages whose bodies were originally recovered by the IDF before they were killed. Why is Hamas doing this?
So the bodies of 6 hostages have been recovered in an underground tunnel in Rafah of Gaza, and IDF have said that they were brutally murdered right before the Israel Defense Force was about to rescue them. And the location of the site was approximately 1 kilometer from the tunnel where another hostage was rescued a day earlier. So as the Hamas is pushed to the corner and about to lose its bargaining chip for permanent ceasefire negotiation, which is the Israel hostage, they have murdered them. So it is the last resort of Hamas to confront the IDF military operation. That's why they are kind of now using killing the hostage to kind of like pressure Israel to follow up the negotiation. And as you mentioned, some might say it as a psychological tactic, but I would like to rephrase it as a psychological terror that aims the families of remaining hostage to influence them to pressure Israel government to proceed with the permanent ceasefire deal with Hamas in trading with remaining hostage. Like in the video, the previous videos have shown the Goldberg, Poland, Yerushalmi, and Kamel Gad, the 3 of murdered hostage, were agreed to be released as a part of humanitarian category based on the framework Israel and Hamas negotiation deal in early July. So killing them is to blame on Netanyahu government who delayed this deal.
And of course, people in Israel are angry that their country is failing to, come up with a ceasefire deal, especially following the deaths of the 6 hostages. And even U.S. President Joe Biden is saying that Netanyahu is not doing enough to make that deal happen. Is Netanyahu not doing enough?
From its beginning of its war, Netanyahu proclaimed the 2 main objectives of IDF operation. One is the annihilation of Hamas, eradicating them, and the second, rescuing all the hostage. But it was heavily criticized by many experts because it has conflict with each other. So there's no way to achieve eradication of Hamas and also in the same time saving the hostage. But whenever there were heavy criticism on Netanyahu's hardcore military-only strategy, we could rephrase it: we don't negotiate with evil but destroy them. IDF claimed that full pressure on Hamas is the only way to achieve full rescue of the hostage, because maximum pressure on Hamas will give Israel more leverage on its hostage negotiation. So Netanyahu and his ultra-right-wing supporter group have beliefs in this. So depending on where you stand, some might argue that Netanyahu is not doing enough, but others might proclaim that it is the only solution.
Well, tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets to protest. How likely is it that these mass movements will develop into calls for maybe Netanyahu's resignation and even for, early election?
Some reports say it is not tens of thousands, but hundreds of thousands of protesters have taken to the street across the country. And yes, Israelis are once again showing their anger over the failure of Netanyahu's government, including peace deal to release the hostage who still being held by Hamas in Gaza.
Right.
So on Monday, Netanyahu issued a rare apologies to the families because Netanyahu also feels that the atmospheres of public opinion against him is boiling. And on the top of that, there has been a speculation that U.S. is planning to present both sides, which is Israel and Hamas, with what it calls a take it or leave it deal in the coming weeks. So U.S. is drawing a tacit ultimatum of enough is enough on Israel, which is another pressure point to Netanyahu's leadership. So in terms of the political career, Netanyahu is placed in a checkmate situation. He was in that position since the war has begun, but he himself muddled through to current situation that secured his prime minister position by taking advantage of wartime situation. He's the survivor. So, but majority of experts do not expect rosy pictures of his future political career because his coalition partner, far-right group, Minister Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, threatened to bring him down if Netanyahu accepts what they call a promiscuous deal with Hamas that doesn't guarantee a complete victory, which is complete eradication of Hamas in the war. Whereas other opposition groups, including Defense Minister Gallant, fiercely blamed him for deliberately sabotage any chance of a hostage deal to secure his own political survival. So, but as I said, he's a survivor and very skillful statement. So I'm not sure this mass demonstration would end his political career and make his abdication of his prime minister position. But the situation that Netanyahu faces for him to stay in his position is not an easy task. As we could see, the massive protests are kind of like, keep on happening.
And it's not just Israelis in Israel and the U.S. The UK also announced a partial ban on weapons exports to Israel. What would it mean for Israel and for the war from now on?
The British government has suspended some arms export licenses to Israel because they believe the weapons that they give the license to Israel to use could be used to commit violent or violation of international humanitarian law. But so since UK is one of the biggest weapon provider to Israel, including crucial F-35 fighter jet part, surely in symbolic standpoint, it could mean the global community, including loyal ally of Israel, is moving to pressure Israel to end the war. But UK government decision does not go far as enough because only 30 of 350 arms license are suspended. But for Israel, it is hurting their diplomatic capability because they are losing their diplomatic leverage because of UK's decision. So since UK's decision sends a very clear message to other states that even the traditional ally is banning their support to Israel, why shouldn't we? So, because UK ban their ban of weapon license is very small amount, so I don't think it will gonna bring a lot of change and big pressure on Israel on military operation wise. But in the symbolic measures, it kind of give a signal to other states that even allies of the traditional allies of Israel are giving a other opinion. So it kind of gives green light for other states to audaciously to go against Israel. So that is the effect that this kind of weapon ban deals are kind of creating.
Alrighty, Dr. Bag, thank you so much for your time this morning. You have a good one.
Thank you.
South Korea's Park Jin-ho won his second gold medal at the 2024 Paris Paralympics on Tuesday, finishing first in the men's 50-meter rifle 3 positions. The 47-year-old scored a combined 454.6 points in the finals to top the podium, while also setting a new Paralympics record. He broke the previous record of 453.7 points set during the 2016 Rio Paralympics. Park also won the gold medal at the men's 10-meter air rifle standing last month. With the latest gold medal finish, South Korea now has 4 gold medals at this year's Paralympic Games and is one shy of achieving its target of 5 gold medals. President Yoon will hold a summit with the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Christopher Luxon, who is making a 2-day official visit to South Korea. According to Yoon's office, the president will meet with the New Zealand leader at the Yongsan presidential office on Wednesday morning. During the summit, the two leaders are expected to discuss measures to strengthen bilateral relations, as well as ways to enhance cooperation in areas of common regional and global interests, such as deterring North Korea's nuclear threat. Previously, the two leaders met at the NATO summit in Washington, D.C. in July, where they discussed strengthening diplomatic and security cooperation at the meeting of Indo-Pacific 4 countries, issuing a joint statement along with Japan and Australia, condemning the military cooperation between Russia and North Korea. An international conference took place here in Seoul on Tuesday to discuss the reunification of Korea at a time when tensions are high on and surrounding the peninsula. Our North Korea First correspondent Kim Jong-sil has this report.
The Global Korea Forum kicked off with this year's theme, Unified Korean Peninsula for Freedom, Peace and Prosperity. As in the past year, North Korea's leader has denied the idea of reunification. Now is a critical time to discuss this issue.
The reunification of the Korean peninsula should be achieved in a manner that respects and shares universal values such as freedom and human rights. However, this does not imply forced absorption through power, as clearly emphasized.
Reunification through being absorbed by South Korea is something that Pyongyang fears the most, as it would bring an end to the Kim regime. It's not what the South Korean government is aiming for either, and the ministry explained why it's important to make efforts to bring global attention to this issue.
Reunification is not just a matter between the South and North Korea. It's an affair that requires the solidarity and support of the international community. It's therefore crucial for the South Korean government to take the initiative and make efforts to gain such support.
Many of the panelists also discussed the changing international landscape as factors that may affect the security of the Korean peninsula. The deepening rivalry between the U.S. and China, the growing Russian presence in the north amid the war in Ukraine, and finding a global consensus on the Korean peninsula issue were raised as some of the main challenges.
I think it's going to be very difficult to make practical progress in terms of unification given the current circumstances. The South Korean government could focus on trying to create a better relationship with North Korea. Even that may be impossible at the moment. Well, the Netherlands and South Korea are very strong partners, so they fully support the South Korean government in this.
The Minister of Unification plans to hold a U.S. conference of the Global Korea Forum in Washington this November. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Kim Si-young, and this is The World Now. We begin today in the U.S., where a former Deputy Chief of Staff to New York Governor Kathy Hochul has been charged with acting as an undisclosed agent of the Chinese government. 41-year-old Linda's son and her husband and co-defendant Chris Hu were arrested at their Long Island residence on Tuesday morning, pleading not guilty to all charges in federal court. Son, who has worked for the New York state government for over a decade, including as an aide to former Governor Andrew Cuomo, was charged with violating and conspiring to violate the Foreign Agents Registrations Act, visa fraud, alien smuggling and money laundering conspiracy, while her husband, Hu, mainly faces charges of money laundering, bank fraud and misuse of identification. According to a federal indictment, Sun, quote, acted at the order, direction or request of Beijing in return for millions of dollars in kickbacks for personal gain. Sun was sacked almost 2 years ago after the office of Governor Hochul discovered evidence of misconduct and reported it to the authorities. Now, a boat carrying dozens of migrants capsized off the French coast in the English Channel on Tuesday while attempting to cross the channel from France to Britain. French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin said that a pregnant woman and several children were among the 12 confirmed dead so far. The French Coast Guard reported that over 50 people have been rescued off Cap Grisnez near Boulogne-sur-Mer and that 2 remain in critical condition. Local officials said that the victims are believed to be primarily of Eritrean origin, but they could not yet specify the exact nationalities. According to the UN's International Organization for Migration, before Tuesday, 30 people had already died crossing the channel this year, coming close to the record 45 deaths of migrants in 2021. French Interior Minister Darmanin said that the French authorities were preventing 60% of small boat departures, but urged the UK and EU to agree on a treaty on migration to deal with the issue. UK Home Secretary Yvette Cooper described the incident as horrifying and deeply tragic. In France, a 71-year-old man is on trial over allegations of drugging his wife and inviting dozens of strangers to rape her in their home over the period of nearly a decade. In a case that has shocked the country, prosecutors said the husband, named Dominique Pellicot, offered sex with his wife on a website and filmed the abuse after drugging her unconscious. 50 other men who allegedly took part have also been accused of rape, all facing up to 20 years in jail if found guilty. Pellicot's wife, who is now 72 years old, had apparently been entirely unaware of the alleged rapes that took place at their home in the southern French town of Mazan due to the drugs until police told her about them 4 years ago. The trial, which opened on Monday, is set to last until December. Finally, to New Zealand. New Zealand's government announced Tuesday that it will almost triple entry fees for tourists to $100 New Zealand dollars, or around $62 US. According to the National Party-led coalition government, the so-called International Visitor Conservation and Tourism Levy will come into effect from October 1st. While the country's domestic tourism industry has criticised the higher tax for making New Zealand incredibly expensive to visit, New Zealand's Minister for Tourism and Hospitality said the increase would contribute to high-value conservation area and projects and improve visitor experience on public conservation land. A $35 New Zealand tourism levy was introduced in July 2019, but the government says it didn't cover costs associated with a large number of visitors.
Good morning. Despite sweltering afternoon heat, many of us in Korea are enjoying the transition from summer to fall. Mornings and evenings have become cooler and crisp, with the hours of daylight getting shorter each day. And we'll have more comfortable mornings and afternoon scorchers across much of Korea today. Bright sunshine will shine down during the day, boosting UV rays to a very high level in most parts of the country. Don't forget to apply a good amount of sunblock before heading outside. Wearing sunscreen is just as important in the autumn as it is in the summer. Meanwhile, Jeju woke up to another tropical night this morning, and southern parts of the island are forecast to see afternoon showers with a high of 32 degrees. Seoul, Daegu, Gwangju will also see a high of 32 degrees this afternoon. On and off showers are in the forecast for the latter half of the week, but afternoon heat looks to stay through the beginning of the Chuseok holiday next weekend. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have for our morning edition of Arirang News. Thanks for watching.
진짜 한국에선 어떻게 먹는지 알려줄까?
K-바비큐? 신김치랑 먹어야지.
치킨? 치맥 페스티벌은 처음이지?
김치? 종류만큼 먹는 법도 가지각색.
김밥? 시상에선, 산에선, 바다에선 이렇게.
국밥?
취향 따라, 입맛 따라. 이런 한국, 와보지 않고는 모를걸? 요즘 한국에선 어떻게 노는지 알려줄까?
한국에선 아이돌이 되어볼 수도, 인생 번호를 찾을 수도 있지.
제일 핫한 포토 스팟은 여기.
너에게 새로운 영감을 줄 거야.
이런 한국 와보지 않고는 모를걸?
We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation. Bring news just for you. It's Wednesday, September 4th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and this is News Generation. Today, we're joined by Kwon Ji-young.
Happy Hump Day.
Happy Wednesday. And Yoon Se-young.
Good morning.
Good morning. Both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Now, as usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online. Following a recent change in management at Adore, the agency behind K-pop girl group NewJeans, the group has opened up about facing a challenging period. Last week, Adore announced that CEO Min Hee-jin would be stepping down, with Chief Human Resources Officer Kim Ju-young taking over the role. On Monday, NewJeans member Danielle shared her feelings on the group's official fan community app Phoning, expressing that she felt lost and unsettled since the leadership change. Meanwhile, fellow member Min Ji said she wanted to reassure fans that she was okay, but admitted there wasn't much she could do as the situation remains unresolved. Moving on, in other news, there's just about a month left until the annual Seoul International Fireworks Festival. This year's festival is set for Saturday, October 5th at Yeouido Hangang Park. Teams from South Korea, the United States, and Japan will light up the night sky with a spectacular fireworks display starting at 7 p.m. Korea time. Japan's team will get things started, followed by the US and then South Korea. For those looking to get a closer view, golden ticket seats are available on the Live Plus Tribes app until September 22nd. 400 lucky winners will be announced on September 24th. Finally, South Korean food and beverage company Bingeure's latest banana milk advertisement is creating quite a buzz online. The 28-second video posted on the company's YouTube channel last Friday features Olympic table tennis medalist Shin Yoo-bin. It's a fun throwback to Bingeure's 2004 banana milk ad the year Shin was born. The ad also shows Shin performing her signature banana flick technique and recreating the medal ceremony when she won bronze at the Paris 2024 Olympics. The video has already surpassed 2.5 million views as of Wednesday morning, so it has become quite popular. So here in the studio, I want to ask our panelists, have you seen this ad yet? And if you did, what do you think about it?
Yes, I have. And my son is a huge fan of this Yubini Nuna. And as soon as he watched this commercial on TV, he asked me to buy him some banana flavored milk.
Really?
So we went to the convenience store together to get some. And I think it proves the effect of advertisement already. And it was also interesting to note that Shin Yoo-bin was born in 2004. Shot this commercial with a concept that parodies the famous banana-flavored milk advertisement from the same year, and it seems to be a successful strategy that resonates across the generations.
Right, because it's making its appeal even to younger children like Yongsan. So I think that Bingeure has made a fantastic choice in choosing its new banana milk model. Now to you, Jiyeon, did you also watch this ad?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. She looks amazing and adorable.
Right.
It's quite amazing to see how Shin Yoo-bin's viral banana eating moment has now led to her starring in a banana-flavored milk advertisement. Well, this playful connection between her Olympic moments and the product seems to have captured the attention of fans here. I think it's a very smart marketing move that captivates on her popularity. It's great to see her energy and fun side that is, showcased like this. In fact, I must admit, after watching the advertisement, I went to the convenience store like Lauri and bought a package of milk, banana milk. Yes, that's right. Just for myself.
So I guess our panelists just show the reason why a lot of companies, food beverage brands are selecting Olympic sports stars, especially after the Olympic season. So I guess we'll be able to see a surge in banana milk sales going further. And that was our news feed for this Wednesday. So we're going to move on to our main discussion of the day now. We're going to switch the mood a little bit. Today we're going to talk about an issue that has been making headlines here in Korea over the past few weeks. Take a look at the screen to find out more.
South Korea is grappling with a surge in deepfake pornography, a form of digital sex crime. This involves the creation and sharing of sexually explicit images and videos that have been manipulated to look like real people, in this case, women, and alarmingly even minors. Today, we will take a closer look at the gravity of this issue and how it is being perceived by our generation.
Right, so digital sex crimes have been a major issue in Korea for years after years of trying to eliminate 몰카, which refers to secret cameras often used to film material of a sexual nature. The country is now on high alert again this time over deepfake pornography. So we talked about what's deepfake pornography in our VCR. So I want to ask you, Tae-yeon, what has sparked this recent outcry of deepfake sex crimes?
Well, first of all, as a woman and as a mom, this news is incredibly shocking and terrifying. Recently, a deepfake video of a female student combining her face with explicit materials to create a sexually exploitative images were circulated at a university. And similar types of Telegram chat rooms have been discovered one after another, turning this into a serious social issue. And what's really disturbing is the victims include not just college students, but also teachers and female soldiers, and a large number of underage students.
Right, that's the most shocking part.
Right, and that even includes elementary school kids.
I know. So the gravity of the situation, you can just hear from it from Tae-yeon's answer. Now, based on what we know until now, it has been identified that there are more than 1,000 victims. We're seeing thousands of victims being victimized by deepfake pornography. But this isn't just an issue limited to Korea. It's actually raising alarm in many parts of the world, right, Jin?
That's right. Deepfake crimes have become a global issue with the rise of AI. While sexual offences are the most common, they are also economic and political issues caused by ordinary people or by the misuse of celebrities and ordinary people's faces. In South Korea, the problem has reached a very critical level, drawing significant attention from the international media. Foreign media have reported that tech-savvy young people in Korea are increasingly involved in deepfake-related crimes. If you look at the screen, according to the latest data from the Korean National Police Agency, the number of criminal cases involving deepfake videos in South Korea has been rising significantly, with 78 cases reported in 2021, increasing to 120 cases in 2023 and 178 cases in just the first half of 2024. And alarmingly, a substantial portion of these crimes are being committed by teenagers, with their involvement rising from 65% back in 2021 to 76% in 2023, and slightly decreasing to 74% in the first half of 2024 from January to July.
Right, so I think that the stat you just mentioned and we just saw on the screen shows how much severe this problem has become here in the country over the past few years. Of course, once again, this is not just an issue pertaining to Korea, but in order to kind of tackle this issue more effectively, the South Korean government and authorities have promised and pledged that they will put all-out efforts to tackle the crime, right, guys?
Right.
That's correct. Well, the South Korean government is taking the action seriously and implementing some measures to address it. South Korean President Yoon has highlighted the gravity of this serious problem, noting that anyone can potentially become a victim of digital sex crimes. In response, the Korea Communications Standards Commission is increasing the number of monitoring the staff to keep an eye on real-time situations, and the police have started investigating these chat rooms and are launching a special crackdown on deepfake sex crimes. The government announced on 30th of August last month that it will introduce new regulations to punish the false videos, including deepfakes. Also, the ruling party is taking action for this issue by forming a task force to address deepfake digital sex crimes.
Right, and also to bring you the latest, this Monday, the National Police Agency announced that it is actually probing and investigating the encrypted online messages messaging app Telegram, which is the app that these perpetrators use to distribute such content. So we'll have to see how this investigation goes on. But Ji-yeon earlier mentioned that politicians are also putting in a lot of efforts when we're also seeing bipartisan cooperation from the ruling and main opposition party, right, Seong?
Right. On this past Sunday, ruling PPP leader Han Dong-un and main opposition DP leader Lee Jae-myung agreed to speed up the development of sanctions, crackdowns, and preventive measures against the deepfake sex crimes. And previously, the ruling party and the government also held a meeting and decided to push for tougher penalties for distributing fake videos. Now the maximum sentence is 5 years in prison, but they're looking to increase it to 7 years in prison, just like for the illegal filming. And given that many middle school students are involved in deepfake crimes, they're also considering lowering the age limit for juvenile offenders, kids aged 10 to 14, who are currently cannot be criminally prosecuted.
And I think you mentioned a really good point why we actually chose to address this topic on NewsGen today, because once again, this deepfake pornography issue is particularly connected to the younger generation, as many of the victims and even the perpetrators have been identified so far as teenagers. So I want to ask you, Ji-yeon, how is the younger generation reacting to this?
Well, the reaction from the younger generation has been one of the widespread alarm, given the broad scope of the victims, as Seong mentioned, and the growing sense of fear. As information about deepfake sex crime victims and their school spreads, many women are no longer seeing it as a distant problem, and are taking steps to protect themselves.
It could happen to anyone.
To anybody, as South Korean President Yoon has mentioned. There has been a rise in guidelines such as removing profile pictures from social media platforms like KakaoTalk and avoiding posting personal photos on their social network.
That's because the perpetrators actually use these photos and create such deepfake content. Or is there anything else that you'd like to add, Seong?
Yeah, sure. There's a mix of fear and anger in the air among young people, and people are terrified that anyone could be the victims of deepfake sexual crimes. And at the same time, they're furious that those horrific crimes are happening just for fun or for profit, leaving female victims with scars that will never heal. And there's even petition on the National Assembly's website calling for much stricter punishment for those involved in Telegram sex crimes. And also for young people these days, social media is part of their lives for self-expression and documenting daily moments. But now they're deleting all their photos and videos out of fear, and which is a bit sad.
Right. So once again, as this issue heavily concerns a younger generation, and it is indeed a global concern, to understand just how much of a global issue these deepfake crimes have become, we also asked our viewers what they think about deepfake crimes. If we look at the comments, Red or Greenful says deepfake technology is scary on a global level for political stability. A person or group can cause instability through creating false images and propaganda. I'm seeing that on a smaller scale here in the US, since we're in election season. There's been some AI digital alterations for campaigning purposes. Leonto93 says extortion scams, which involve scammers creating deepfake nude images or videos of victims and demanding money to prevent their distribution, and political disinformation using deepfake videos to spread false information about political figures or events, potentially influencing public opinion, are some of the prevalent deepfake crime cases here in Singapore. So based on our viewers' comments, we can see that deepfake crimes have indeed become a global concern. Now, for more insights into this crisis and strategies for effectively tackling it, we're going to invite a legal expert to our talks after this break. Right, so today we're joined by Hwang Yoon-gi, who's working as an attorney in Seoul. Welcome back to the show, Yoon-gi.
Great, how are you? Good, it's great to be back.
We're good, and thank you for joining us once again. So our first question for you is, what are some other types of crimes that use deepfake technology, and why is it so challenging to tackle them?
So this is a very serious topic today, and some other types that use deepfake technology. One of them is a crime that's been an issue for quite some time. So it's fraud and extortion through phone calls. We commonly refer to this as voice phishing. So it's evolved to utilize AI technology, AI voice generation technology, where they will take a phone call from your voice and use it to imitate the voice of those closest to you, such as family or friends. And they use the voice of family and friends to extort money or other money from you. So, and another format that's become more prevalent is where they use created images of famous celebrities endorsing their fraudulent products. And what makes it so challenging to tackle these is the diffuse nature of these crimes. Whereas with more traditional crimes, it was easier to pinpoint where and when these crimes are occurring. As to these crimes that involve deepfake technology, they're much more spread out. We don't know where or when these crimes occurred. And I guess the more horrifying thing about these crimes is that people are not even aware of the fact that they were victims of such crimes. It could be happening at this moment.
That is so true, Mr. Hwang. So how does Korean law currently punish perpetrators of deepfake pornography?
So the legal history behind the punishment of these kind of heinous crimes goes back to 1994, which is when we introduced the earliest version of what we call the Special Act on cases concerning the punishment of sexual crimes. So back then, it dealt with the traditional sexual crimes. But as time went on and the modus operandi of the criminals became more diverse, we became to amend these legal regulations to include what we call deepfake pornography. So that most recent amendment came about in 2020. So this new article, it's called Punishment for the Distribution of False Video Products. So it's called where a person edits, synthesizes, or processes video or photograph or audio targeting the face, body of a person for the purpose of dissemination of creating the shame and sexual desire. They are subject to up to 5 years in prison. So if by creating this deepfake pornography, it's up to 5 years in prison. For distributing the deepfake pornography, it's also 5 years in prison. And as an additional punishment, if you created and sold these deepfake pornography for profit, it becomes up to 7 years in prison. And if you did all this habitually over a long period of time, targeting multiple victims, you can aggregate the sentence up to 1.5 times, which totals up to maximum of 10 years and 6 months of prison time.
I see. So then from an expert's point of view, what changes or policies need to be implemented to effectively stamp out these crimes?
So I guess one of the policies or measures that people usually call for is harsher punishment. People are very quick to call for longer criminal sentences. And while I do agree that that does offer a bit of a deterrence to people who are predisposed to commit crimes, as you mentioned in your discussions, when it comes to deepfake pornography and creating AI images of people, this kind of crime is disproportionately represented by the younger generation because, as you mentioned, they are more tech savvy, they are digital natives. And one of the sentiments they've expressed is that they don't realize that this is a serious crime. So they've been on the internet for so long that, it's just the internet. It doesn't count. That, well, not everyone thinks that way. Certain criminals do. So what I think that we have to focus on is more prevention and education, and educating the younger generation that just because it's on the internet doesn't mean that it doesn't count. It's a very serious crime with very serious, real repercussions and real victims. And so that's the education policy part. And another method of approach that people are taking is utilizing AI to combat the perpetration of these crimes. So, for example, they are inventing technologies to detect whether such deepfake pornography has been created beforehand. So I guess we can look forward to a more positive utilization of AI technology in this matter.
Hope we can see those changes in policies. All right, Yoon-gi, thank you so much for your valuable insights today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Right, so as Yoon also mentioned, what's truly alarming is how quickly these deepfake pornography materials can be created, sometimes in under a minute, and how easily they can be shared in chat rooms, spreading to countless others in no time. So as we wrap up, I'd like to ask our panelists, both as members of the younger generation and also parents, what do you think should be done more to stamp out and eliminate these crimes from happening in the future?
Well, in order to prevent these kind of crimes, we need targeted prevention education for teenagers, the young people. Yeah, given their high rate of offending and public awareness campaigns to highlight the risks of deepfake technology and how to spot these threats, it's also important to educate young people about the importance of not sharing personal photos carelessly. And also, I do think that after all, the only deepfake videos we should see is a cheesy special effect in a top-tier film, or should I say blockbuster movie in the future.
Right, so helping people understand the gravity of the situation, because as Yoon mentioned, some might overlook it and just say, oh, I'm just creating a content that will be shared online, which is definitely not the case
They're
for
not
this
even
situation.
aware of the fact that it's the crime.
I know, right? And what are your thoughts on this, Hyung?
Well, given the high crime rates among teenagers, those in 20s and 30s, it's crucial to implement a preventive education for young people, like Yoon said. And while it's important to severely punish the crimes, we also need to focus on prevention to stop them from happening in the first place. So I believe we need to establish a system that educates people, young people, early on about how horrific these crimes are.
Right, so hope we can see more improvements and more policies that will help tackle and in the future eliminate these deepfake related crimes. And that's all from us today, but NewsGen will be back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks today to Kwon Ju-hyun.
Thank you so much.
And Yoo Se-young.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.
요즘 한국에선 어떻게 노는지 알려줄까?
한국에선 아이돌이 되어볼 수도 인생 커널을 찾을 수도 있지.
제일 핫한 포토 스팟은 여기.
한국은 분명 너에게 새로운 영감을 줄 거야.
이런 한국